that they hadn't seen videos for a while. What had become of me? Well, I was quite ill for 2 weeks solid, and just as I got over it, I had very serious solar power system problems. I overused the system, it died, and then we went into a 4-day period here in Van der Kloof. Has dropped to the lowest in 28 years. Very, very significant as the world comes to terms with the reality of an emerging BRICS currency. Elon Musk's Neuralink brain implant was cleared for human trials. For we conservative Christians, heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. When Elon Musk says that AI is the most dangerous threat to mankind, I think that what he means is, I am going to destroy you with it. But we clap handies for him like, you know. Similarly, I would say that when he said that George Soros hates humanity, we all smiled warmly at good old Elon telling the truth about George Soros, but I think that what he meant was that he and Kissinger and Victoria Nuland and Soros are going to eat our children while seated at the same table, giggling about how they conned all of us. Dear me. Lucas van Biljon, oud Springbok hacker, en sy pa, André Viljoen, was verlede Vrydag. It only came out over the weekend. Well, certainly we only got to hear of it then. Oggendure deur 70 gewapende rowers aangeval op Lucas se plaas, and tragically there was a subsequent death. Very, very sad. Heartbreaking. I probably shouldn't get myself started. Saudi Arabia may join the BRICS Bank. The correct term is the New Development Bank, or the right name for the BRICS Bank is the New Development Bank, and Saudi Arabia is reportedly in talks to become the 10th participating member of that bank, thereby lending it phenomenal strength. It's well known by experts that the richest man in the world is not Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. There is some debate, but there are many who believe that there are actual trillionaires in the Saudi royal family, and that's indicative of how much wealth has been accrued in Saudi Arabia over the past, call it 100 years of oil exploration and exploitation in Saudi Arabia. High levels of retrenchment may be expected in South Africa. This was reported in Business Tech. Michael Gullen, the CEO of G&G Advocacy, an organization, gave this warning, and he said it may in fact be not just many more retrenchments, but mass retrenchments at a time. The Electoral Amendment Act is unconstitutional, and it is being taken to court. It is perceived to be a very, very big event in certain circles, and we wait to hear what the progress is with that. The South African Reserve Bank is planning for a total blackout. As reported by the dailyinvestor.com, South Africa's central bank is working on a contingency plan to ensure that the country's payments system remains in operation in the event that the nation's power grid collapses. Now, I should add to that I forget the guy's title, but a senior South African Reserve Bank guy was questioned on this subject, and he said that they are working very, very hard to see what facility they can retain in the event of a grid collapse. And I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that if the grid does collapse and people cannot draw money from their banks, and they are cold, there's no electricity, they can't cook, and they can't buy food, you may take it almost as a guarantee that there will be an enormous, violent crisis in this country. Foreigners are dumping South African bonds. According to the South African Reserve Bank's Stability Review, foreigners are dumping local bonds. Foreign participation in South African government bonds has fallen from 42% of those people who buy the bonds. Bonds are issued to raise capital, so they're a debt, and people buy them and they get interest on them. The government pays them interest. And that drop from 42% to 25% is a drop of 40%. Which is significant because it has happened in just 5 years that 40% of the foreigners who used to participate in our bond market have run away. We have no idea how much trouble we're in. Right, we've heard that the National Health Insurance Act has taken a step further. It has cleared the hurdle, if you like, of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, and it will be at some point in time presented before Parliament, and in which case we've discussed at great length in previous videos the phenomenal threat that will pose to the entire South African medical insurance, health insurance industry. On Wednesday, the German authorities officially announced that the German economy is in a recession. Very, very big news. The take-home pay index showed that monthly salaries on average in South Africa fell in the month of April, a sign of the times. SPAR's shares crashed 15% as IT problems and higher costs associated with blackouts hit their profit. 15% in one day. That's how severe the problem is. And this, of course, is part of the cascade effect that Suidlanders has been warning of, consequent to the blackouts. The rand is staring down the 20 to the dollar mark. Last week we reported that it had touched, I believe, 1991, if I remember correctly, and then it went back down to 1987, 19 rand and 87 cents. Well, it's continuing to perform in that way, a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit of strengthening, a little bit of weakening again, but it is staring down the barrel of 20 rand to the dollar. Very dangerous. On Thursday, the 1st of June, yesterday, South Africa recorded its fourth cholera, not outbreak. You know, we had cholera in Hammanskraal, we had cholera in the Free State, then cholera was observed by the boffins, the scientists, under the microscope, presumably, in the Vaal River. And now we have, it has been identified in a fourth municipality, and that is quite phenomenal because it has all happened within the span of about 10 or 11 days. Race quotas over water. Die DA is vies oor rasquotas vir water. Let me clarify what is the story. The government is proposing a law whereby water is allocated according to race for 250 consumers of 250,000 litres and more. Now, that's a hang of a lot of water. It doesn't necessarily apply to you and me. It's more to farmers. And so farmers will be obliged, if they want to conduct irrigated crop farming or highly intensive farming on the East Rand of Johannesburg, where there are so many fruit and veg farms and other similar places, it will be an absolute noose around their neck. And of course, there is some fear that that might then become applicable in municipalities. In other words, that if in a given municipality there's a disproportionate number of white people, by percentage, a disproportionate percentage of white people consuming that municipality's 250,000 or 500,000, 750,000, 2.5 million, whatever, litres of water a year or a month or a week or a day, as the case may be, depending upon the size of the municipality, that will then, in fact, affect you and me directly. I'll tell you, die konsepregulasies vereis dat ondernemings wat vir so 'n lisensie aansoek doen to water rights in die toekoms aandele van tot 75% aan swart Suid-Afrikaners moet toeken vir 'n gebruikslisensie om toegestaan te word. So it is a very, very ominous thing, and may God forbid it. I beg your pardon, I'm just trying to pull something up that has run away. Oops. All right, let's just carry on. The United States of America has retaliated against Russia over the START treaty. In fact, it's the new START treaty. START stands for Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. I don't know if you remember, there was the SALT, the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty. Then there was the START, Strategic Arms Reduction Talks. And then, as I say, START and then new START. So this is one of those nuclear weapons treaties that we've heard so much about in the news over decades and decades, going right back to the late 1970s, when I started watching the news at 8 p.m. as a little boy. what it means to you and me is that there is further upping the ante in the present global frightening dramas. Planned layoffs, retrenchments. The word we use is retrenchments. In the USA, they use the phrase planned layoffs. In the USA have year on year, so by comparison with the same period last year, quadrupled. Another frightening sign of the times. Russia is going to form 2 new armies this year, including an army corps and 5 new divisions and 26 brigades. If you are the employer of a domestic worker, including a gardener, by now you should have registered. Very big thing, really. The South African Reserve Bank has added sanctions against South Africa by the USA as a new risk in its financial stability review. Since the November 2022 financial stability review, 2 new risks have been added. Capital outflows, as we mentioned earlier, capital leaving the South African bond market, and a couple of weeks ago we spoke about foreign capital leaving the South African equities market, the stock exchange. And then, of course, secondary sanctions amid heightened geopolitical polarization. So sanctions by the USA, what are called secondary sanctions, not for something that we did, but for being friends with somebody who did something. In other words, that's to do with Russia, Ukraine. China's Premier Xi Jinping has once again explicitly informed the country to prepare for war, worst case scenarios. And one of the pieces of advice that has come out from the Chinese Communist Party, the Central Committee, the highest levels, is that people should now purchase 1 year's worth of food, just to illustrate how seriously they are taking it. The new currency for South Africa, Russia, and China, in other words, the talk, the promise, the probability of the new BRICS currency is becoming more and more serious. And the Business Tech of today has an article in which they discuss how it could skirt sanctions if the United States of America does